సో ఇప్పుడమ్మా నార్మల్గా ఉందా? ఒక్క నిమిషం కన్సోల్ పేజ్ ఓపెన్ చేస్తాను.
ప్రెజెంట్ ఓకే సార్.
ఓకే, మధ్యలో ఏం డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తే నాకు ఒక్కసారి మళ్ళీ ఇమీడియట్గా మెసేజ్ పెట్టండి. ఓకే. So whereas working on this ECS, we can communicate with other ECS service also. Okay. So whereas in working with EKS, there is only limited possibility. Only still there are working on this attachments. Okay, so you can use only exclusively only Kubernetes, and you might not able to integrate with any other AWS services. Okay, so currently this Fargate, as you can see, we have executed Fargate only on ECS. Fargate is not available separately, so Fargate is available under the ECS service. Okay, so use case, when you can use ECS, we can use you can use this ECS good for native container architecture. Okay, similarly, easy to move on premise Kubernetes to AWS EKS. Okay, so this can be used for bigger projects. So good for workload which runs on duration. So this will be useful when your service is running in the background. For the long duration tasks, Fargate is applicable, whereas EKS can be applicable for the huge projects. Whereas normal execution of the containers, you can use ECS. Okay, so we'll try to work on this EKS today. So to understand this EKS, first you need to understand this architecture. Normally, first what we have tried to do, we have tried to understand this master worker node architecture, right? So now we are creating this practically. So practically, to understand our, so to practically understand this, so this is what you will be doing, or else we can search this on internet, we'll find this. So AWS EKS architecture. Okay, this is actual Kubernetes architecture. Right now we are executing this Kubernetes on our AWS, right? So we'll try to understand this, how exactly Kubernetes is working on AWS. Okay. I think there is no simple example here. Hmm. Okay, so in this picture only we'll try to see. So the thing is, it is easy to understand. First thing is, as you can see, here is your EKS control panel, and followed by your worker nodes. Okay, so to communicate with this, you will be using this kubectl command. Okay, I'll write down the steps. How will you be creating this uh, Kubernetes on AWS? Okay, I'll just note down the steps such that you can understand it easily. Okay, setup EKS cluster. So first step is create a Kubernetes cluster. So first we'll be able to trying to create one cluster. Second one is create EKS role. Okay. Third one, configure cluster. Okay. Fourth one, review and create cluster. Okay, so these four steps we'll do one by one, so this will help you to create your cluster. Okay, so we'll go back, we'll go to our portal page, AWS. So next, right, so in this we'll be working on EKS. Okay, so elastic Kubernetes service, so search for EKS. Okay, as you can see here, elastic Kubernetes service. Okay, so click on that. So as you can see, first we'll be creating one our Kubernetes cluster, right? So to understand this functionality, just you need to understand this. So first you'll be creating your cluster. Second, you will be adding your nodes. Then you will be connecting to your EKS. Then you will be running your Kubernetes apps. So this is very very important. So this will make you understand the concept of EKS. So I'll just save this image, right? So I think they're not providing this image for us. Okay. So first we'll create one cluster. So click on add cluster, create cluster. Okay. So give a cluster name. I'll say May 23 Kubernetes cluster. Okay. And very importantly, remember the Kubernetes version. Okay. So the version is 1.26. Okay. Then one more thing is, while we were creating this ECS instance, we have not added any role, right? So but while we are working on this EKS, so we need to create one role, then only you will be able to create the cluster. Okay, so if for example, even if I click next, so it says cluster service role. Okay, so we need to create this role again. I think you already aware of this IAM roles, right? So you need to click on this IAM role and you need to create the cluster. Okay. So I'll say, so select the IAM role. Okay. So go to this IAM role and create one role for the cluster. Okay. So now I'll say IAM. So go to IAM. So here you need to create one role. Okay. So click on roles, create role. So scroll down. So here you need to select EC2. Okay. So as you know, we are working on this cluster. So we need to check the cluster first. So search EKS. Okay. So here you need to select EKS. Okay. So here what we are working on, we are working on EKS cluster. Okay. So you can also see EKS, which will allow you to manage cluster on your behalf, allows access to other AWS services which are required to operate and manage cluster. Okay, so right now I'm selecting EKS. Okay, so we want to manage the cluster. Okay, select this and click on next. Okay, so here you can see I'm selecting Amazon EKS server service policy. So you can remember here. So EKS role we are creating for Amazon EKS service policy. Okay, you can add to this. Then you can click on next, next, and create role. Okay, so role name AWS service role for Amazon. Okay, so this we have created. So as you can see, role AWS service role for Amazon EKS created. Okay, so we need to add this, control C. So I'm just copying this. Okay, now I'll go back to this EKS. So I'll click on Elastic Kubernetes Service. So add cluster. So again I'll give a new name. So I'll say May 23 cube cluster. Okay, so remember the version 1.26. Okay, so here you can see role. Now we have just created one role. I'll just refresh this button. Okay, the role is not getting displayed. We'll find out. We have added one EKS cluster, but still it's not showing. So here are the steps they are providing for us. Just will which we have created earlier is not working. So we'll try to create by using this Amazon EKS user guide. So we shall see what we have done. So open IAM roles. I have opened create role. We have done again selected AWS services. So we'll try to do this again. So what's there? We'll try to do this again. We'll create another role. Okay, choose roles and create role. Yes. I think up to this we have selected, and okay, they are asking us to select EKS cluster. Okay, so in our previous role, I think we have selected only EKS. Okay, so that is the reason it has not come. Okay, or else we can also change our existing roles also. So this we have created, right? So this we have created just now. So what I will do, So I'll click on edit. So okay, I think there is no way of creating editing this one. So I'll just follow this again. So I've just opened IAM. Okay, this delete is not working. I'll go to roles. I'll click on create role. So select AWS service, scroll down, and in this use cases drop down, you need to select EKS. Okay, so EKS I've selected. Okay, so in this you need to select EKS cluster. Okay, so previously we have selected this EKS which was not working. Okay, so right now it has asked you to select EKS cluster. Okay, as you can see here, choose EKS cluster for your use case. Okay, and click on next. Next, so you can give a name. I say EKS cluster permission. Okay, so now I'm adding this. So then I'll create role. So it is creating role for me, right? So EKS cluster permission created. Okay, copy. Okay, now the role has been created. Now we can add here. So I'll just say refresh button. Okay, so as you can see, EKS cluster permission. Okay, just now we have created it, we have got it. Okay, so in your notepad section here you also you write just to change this. Okay, so you need to add this one, choose EKS cluster. So for just for your if you are doing this again, just you need to remember this. Okay, so this I have done. So IAM role created. So click on next. Okay, so VPC default VPC it has selected. So I think we know we have three subnets in our South A, South 1A, 1B, 1C. Okay, so the same region which we are working on. South one. So in the south we have three. So it has selected that three subnets. Okay. So inside the security group, I think you can use any existing security group. So regularly I'll be using this launch wizard one. I'll be using the existing security group only. Okay. So if you want to create one new security group, you can also do that. Okay. So IP address, now I'll be using this IPv4 only. Okay, and similarly the cluster endpoint access. So the cluster need to be accessed by outsiders, right? So everyone need to access our cluster such that they can access our data. So that is the reason what I'll say I'll be using this public. Okay, so my cluster will be public. Okay, so click on next. This you can just use for your monitoring purpose. So right now I don't want to go in detail, so click on next. So here you can see Q proxy, Amazon VPC, CNI, and Core DNS. So these three softwares are EKS add-ons. Okay, so I'm not installing this manually. These three softwares are directly provided by AWS. Okay, so what AWS will do is in your master to function. Okay, so this master is there to the master, or here we are calling it as cluster. Okay, so cluster needs some software, right? So it need kube control manager, it need etcd, it need kube scheduler. Okay, so these three softwares need to be installed. Okay, so here you can see these three softwares are installed directly by the Amazon. Okay, you need not install manually. Okay, so that is the reason you have no chance to change this. See, you can't untick. Why? Because Amazon is directly giving you the services and installing it on your cluster. Okay, so click on next. So these three versions they are selecting. So which version if you want to change the version, you can change. Okay. But what I'm doing is I'm doing by the default version, which is provided by the AWS. I'm going through the default version. So then click on next. So tags if you want to add, you can add. Okay. So then I'll just this is a review page. Okay. So cluster configuration name we have given. Okay. And Kubernetes 1.26 version, and networking I have selected IPv4, and subnet three are there, 1A, 1B, 1C south I have added, one security group I have given. Okay. And as you can see, public access endpoint I'm putting it as public, such that any IP address can be able to access my cluster. Okay. So these are all I kept it off, monitoring and all. Then these three add-ons, these are directly provided by the AWS. Okay. So I'm not changing it. Okay. So as you can see, installed by default. Then I'll scroll down. So these are all the versions of the software. So core DNS. So core DNS 1.93. So Q proxy 1.26. So VPC CNI. So 1.1.25. Okay, these are all directly provided by AWS. I'm not having any options to select. If I can only change the version number, but I'm just going through default things provided by the Amazon. Okay, so now our cluster complete creation completed. Okay, so I can say completed cluster creation. Okay, so now our master is ready. That means what we can see, my master is ready. Okay, so here in AWS we are calling this as cluster. Our master installation has been happened. So the AWS is preparing my master. Okay, in the meantime what you can do is you need to install several softwares for your communication purposes. Okay, so what you need to do is, second thing what you need to do is install necessary softwares. Okay, so first one what you need to install, AWS CLI. I think you have already gone through this, AWS CLI. Second one, Cube CTL. Okay, so these two softwares you need to install on your computer. Okay, so I think AWS CLI you have already installed while working on this ECR, right? So while we are installing this ECR, we have downloaded this AWS CLI and installed, right? So again, no problem, I'll show you how that happens. Okay, so simply go to this search bar, AWS CLI for Windows, or else install Windows. Okay, so I'll say installing or updating AWS CLI on my computer. So I'll scroll down. So if it is, I'll select Windows operating system. Okay, you can just download the installer and you can run the installer. Okay, so this is one method. Okay, this is I think this we have already done. We have done this and we have installed this for our ECR version. While deploying our images to ECR, we have done it. So if you want to check, so what you can do is you can just directly check on your command prompt. Okay, so just go to your command prompt. I'll say control panel, sorry, command prompt. I'll say AWS version. Okay, so as you can see, AWS CLI version has been installed already. So as you can see, I've just executed this AWS CLI command. So AWS CLI command is resulting me this response, such that AWS CLI installation has been already done on my computer. Okay, so already this AWS CLI software is available on my computer. Okay, so this is done. Next I need to install kubectl. Okay, so we'll download it from the internet. So I'll say, I'll go back and I'll search kubectl install. Okay, install for Windows, or else I'll say this is also available from AWS. Okay, so I'll say AWS. Okay, so this page you can go through, install or updating kubectl. Make sure that you install it from this Amazon website. Okay, so click on this, right? So this is the command to check whether your kubectl is installed on your computer or not. Okay, so we have not installed, right? So install or update kubectl on Mac OS, Windows, and this is available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. Okay, so right now I'm using this Windows operating system. I'll select Windows operating system, and what this person is telling me, open PowerShell terminal. Okay, I'll say open PowerShell. Okay, so what is saying, to asking me to download this. Okay, so it is, I'm installing 1.26 version. Okay, so copy this and execute in your PowerShell. Okay, so right click. Okay, I'll copy and I will paste. Okay, so as you can see, when I execute that command, automatically it is downloading me from the internet. Okay, so let it complete the installation part. So as you can see, it is downloading this kubectl software. Okay, so after the installation, so you can see, after your you install kubectl, you can verify its version. Okay, so you need to verify this version. Okay, so again, this what happens is, this is not okay, optional. So we'll try to execute this command. If it is not working, then we will do the above process. So there is one another process to mention your environment variable. Okay, if it is not working, then we'll do that process. So first let that installation complete, and we shall see. Okay, so the installation is still happening. So this second one also will complete. AWS Clive we have completed. Now we'll complete kubectl. Okay, so once we'll go back to our uh, cluster and see if it has created or not. Okay, so it is still in this status is in creating process. Our cluster is getting created. I'll just refresh the button. Okay, still it is getting created. Okay, so let it create. Parallelly, we are also installing this kubectl software. Okay, so let this also get completed. Okay, now it has completed the installation of this kubectl. Okay, so as they mentioned, we can execute this command to check the kubectl is installed or not. Okay, so just copy this, copy, and I'll say kubectl version. Okay, so here you can see kubectl command I have executed, and you can see client version already is there. 1.24 version is installed, and the customized version 4.5.4. Okay, so that means our kubectl is working properly. So again I'll say, I'll copy this command and I'll say paste. Okay, so here you can see the response. That means our kubectl is working properly. So these two things has completed. AWS Clive we have installed, and kubectl also we have installed. Okay, two softwares are working. So next, our cluster part. So it is still getting created. Okay, so it is still creating our cluster. It is taking much time. Okay, so after creating our cluster, what we will do is we will set up our nodes. So next steps. So after this necessary software, then so we'll create EKS worker nodes. Okay, so this will do that. Okay, so after creating, check with kubectl commands. Okay, so that will do. Okay, so first, this I can say step 1. Step 1 we have done, set up EKS cluster. uh, Step 2, install necessary software. And this is step 3, create worker nodes. And step 4, check with kubectl commands. Okay, so let it create first. Okay, so right now as you can see, the status has changed to active. Okay, so now this creating a EKS worker nodes completed, right? So now we'll go to step number 4. Okay, so check with kubectl commands. Sorry, step number 3 we have to do, create EKS worker nodes. Okay, so first one is create a node group. Okay, so what you will do is you will be creating one node group. Okay, so we'll go back. So here this is your cluster, right? So inside your cluster, go to this compute part. Okay, so inside your compute part you'll be finding two sections. One is node group and one is node. So remember that you need to add node group, and inside your node group you will be adding your nodes. Okay, so first, so that is the reason all your nodes will be present inside your node group. Okay, so that is the reason first you will be creating a node group. So click on add node group. Okay, right. So this is the node group. So I'll say node group May 23. Okay, so this I am creating. So then what you need to do is, again this is also important here, node IAM role. Okay, so same thing again here also, it is important. So what we have done in the previous, while creating our cluster, so we have added this EKS cluster role, right? Similarly, here also create a node group. Second one, create IAM role. Okay, for nodes. Okay, so what you will be giving is, you will be giving three permissions. One is Amazon EKS CNI policy. So this one thing you'll add. Second one is Amazon worker node policy. So you'll add this. So I'll say Amazon EC2 container registry read only. So container registry read only. Okay, so they need to add three permissions. So three permissions we have to add for the node group. Okay. So this we'll do now. So I'll think here also you can do. So info, I'll go to this info, and are they mentioning any permissions here? No. So I am console, I'll say. Okay, sorry, he's taking me to the same page again. So I'll go to this IAM role again, right? So here I'll have to create role. I'll say click on create role, and I'll say create role. So previously we have done for master. Now we are doing for the nodes. Okay. So AWS service. So here you need to select EKS. Okay. So EKS you select, right? So inside this EKS, we need to select node group. Why? Because we are working on node groups, right? So select node groups. Okay. So click on next, right? So what they are giving permissions of only this one. Okay. So I'll say I'll go back. I'll say EC2. I'll say EKS. Next. So here you need to search. So I have told given already new names here. So Amazon EKS CNI policy. So here I'll say EKS. Let us search what it will be showing. Right. So here you have found Amazon EKS CNI policy. Okay. So select one. So again Amazon worker node policy. Okay. So we'll see Amazon EKS worker node policy. So select. So next third one, Amazon EC2 container registry read only. Okay. So I think this will be coming under EC2. So it is not here. So now I'll say EC2. Okay. So search. This I'll remove. So what is saying? Amazon EC2 container registry read only. Okay. So Amazon EC2. Okay, here it is. Amazon EC2 container registry read only. Okay. So select. Okay. So then click on next. Okay. Scroll down. So as you can see in this notepad, you can just check. So CNI policy we have done. Worker node policy we have done. So container registry read only we have done. Okay. So these three permissions we are creating, and I'll say node group May 23. Okay. So I'll give a name to it and click on create role. Okay. So we are creating one role, node group May 23. So let it create that group role for me, right? So node group May 23 created. Okay. So I'll go back and I'll see. I'll just check here, refresh. Okay. Scroll down. Here you can see node group May 23. So I am rule created. So I'll say node group May 23. Okay. So this I'm doing. Scroll down. Okay, just create one. Next. Okay, so you are installing two nodes, right? So this is your node, one node and two node. So these are all two instances, right? So you need some operating system to run this. So here I'm selecting Amazon Linux. So any other operating system for your node you can select. So I'm selecting Amazon Linux. So capacity on demand. So instances type also you can select. So what I'll do, I'll select small instances. I'll say T2 dot micro. Okay, so I'll go with smallest version. Okay, using instances with the different resource sizes may affect the scaling of node, because Kubernetes cluster auto scaling assumes all the nodes within the name have the same resource of CPU memory. Okay, so one is there's okay, so we need to select only one. Okay, so instance I've selected. So very important thing is this one. So desired size, how many you want. So minimum, how many you want. Maximum, how many you want. So this I think you already got familiar while creating your service. When you are creating a service, so minimum two services we had asked it to maintain, and maximum number of nodes you can maintain. So similarly, that is the number. If you are, it is under this node group, it will create one node. Each node will have this operating system with this configuration, and the desired size is 2. At minimum, always it will make sure that two instances are running for you. So maximum also you can change. If you want to keep 10, you can 10. So up to 10 it will create by itself. Okay, if you say 2, so the maximum it will create 2 only for you. Okay, so maximum unavailable. Set the maximum number or percentage of unavailable nodes to be tolerated during the node group version update. Okay. So by number only it will check. Even with your percentage also you can check. For example, if your percentage, for example, I'll say 90%. So 90% if one, no, for example, it is running two nodes. Okay, so maximum I'll put it on 4. So it will so maximum each of your instance is running on 90%. If it is reaches 91 or 92%, so automatically, as you can see, maximum size is 4. That means it will create another one. It will change the size to 3. So similarly, if instances are running on 90%, so then automatically it will create the fourth one. Okay, such that it will increase the number by itself. Okay, so here you can select by number wise or percentage wise. Okay, so each number it will be checking. Okay, so I'll say percentage, I'll say 1. Okay, click on next. So as you know, we have only one subnet, South A, South B, South C. Okay, so let it be. So click on next. Here also all the necessary softwares will be installed by AWS only. Okay, so click on create. Right, so this will take some time. So why? Because it is I can see again, go back to your cluster. This is your cluster. Inside the compute section, so as you can see, node group. So we have just created node group, and the desired size is two instances. So these two instances will be visible inside your nodes section. Okay, so these two nodes will be visible inside your nodes. So whenever you want to add node, you need to add through groups only. Okay, so you can't create separately. Okay, so as you can see, the status, it is still creating. Just open your group. Node group may is created. The process may take several minutes. Okay, so nodes they haven't came yet. So this will learn in detail while doing the practical. So right now what we have done, I have created one worker node. I have created node group. IAM role I have given 3 permissions. I have taken, and after creating step number 4, we'll check with kubectl command. Okay, so this we will do. First let it complete the installation. So creating part, so let it complete. Okay, so it is still creating nodes. Okay, node group is active. Okay, still creating nodes. Okay, right. So as you can see now, I'll also show you again in detail. So this is my cluster, right? May 23 cube cluster. This is my cluster, and under my cluster, it has. I need to go to this compute section. So inside my compute section, you can see I have created one node group. Okay. So inside this node group, you are able to see two instances. The desired size is 2 and the status is active. So where are these two instances? So this is instance number 1 and this is instance number 2. And who is maintaining this nodes? These two nodes are maintained by this node group. Okay, this is the node group which is handling these two instances. So this is node number 1. Okay, so this is the node number 1 which you have created. So as you can see here, you can see the detail of your each node. Okay, so this is your system, one core system. And if you have provided this 0.93 GB of memory, out of that 43% is available. So as you can see, pods. So as you know, already discussed about pods, each pod will be running your container. Okay, inside each pod there might be one container or multiple containers. Okay, so that is not the problem. You can create one container inside pod or multiple containers inside the pod. Okay, so these are the detail of node number 1, first node. Okay, so here you can see the detailed information, and here you can see in each there are four pods running. So one, two, three, four. Okay, so these are all required for running your uh, Kubernetes configuration. Okay, so this you can see. So you can see we have configured one cluster. Okay, so in that cluster you have created one master. So master is running. So inside your master we have created two nodes, or else we can see another picture, right? So here you can see master we have created, worker nodes we have created, right? So master is working and it is handling your node group. In each node group there are two nodes. Okay, each node is running pods. Okay, so there are already actively four pods are running in each instance node we can say, right? So this is clear. So I'll go back to my cluster. I'll go back. This is my master. So inside my master, two nodes are working. So this is node number 1. This is node number 2. So let me check node number 2. So this is my node number 2. So as you can see, in this also one core is there. It is having 0.93 MB of memory. It is also having two pods, four pods. Two are actively available and two are used pods. Okay. So these are my two pods which are running. Okay, so this is just for your understanding, like how we have configured our master and how we have created our nodes in this, right? So as you know, this is the master. This will be handling all your nodes. So now we'll try to communicate with this master through our command line. Okay, so we have already installed this what we say, uh, this software, right? AWS client kubectl. We'll just try to communicate with our master through command line. Okay, so that we'll try to do now. So I'll go back. So this is the thing which I'm using. So first one, AWS version I have checked, and it is working. So similarly, this kubectl version also I have tried, right? I'll just copy this. I'll see if at all this command is working. Right, this q command is also working for me, right? So now I'll tell you two commands to check our uh, master. Okay, so I'll say AWS EKS region. Okay, so it will tell you the region. Okay, I'll say XXX is my region, space. Okay, space, describe cluster. It will tell me whether your cluster is working or not. Okay, so space, name should be given. So name, you should mention your name of the cluster. I'll say XXX. Okay, so next, query. So you can write your query. So query also you can ask. You need to write your query based on your this thing, your master. Okay, so which is the query you want to this is just a template. Okay, so template I'm providing you. Okay, so now what we shall do is we shall try to execute this command on our command prompt. Okay, so what I'll say, AWS EKS region. Okay, so I'll find out my region. So where my region will be. Okay, so this is my cluster, right? So what you need to understand is we'll be working on this kubectl commands. Okay, so this is my region, AP South 1, right? So I'll just copy. Okay, so I'll copy this region. I'll put it here. Okay, AP South 1. So then I'll say describe cluster. So here I have to mention name. So what is the name of the cluster? I'll find out. So the name of my cluster is this one. So May 23 cube cluster. Copy and I will paste it here. Okay. Space query, and you need to write the query. So here I'll say the query as cluster dot status. Okay, so we'll try. So it will tell me the status of my cluster. So why I'm telling you all these commands is this is how you'll be able to communicate. Like when we are working on Docker, first we have tried commands, right? So in the similar way, we'll try to communicate with our Kubernetes cluster using these commands. So just for your understanding purpose, I'm explaining you this. So I'll execute this command. So copy and I'll execute here. Okay, paste. Okay, it's not copied yet. I'll say copy. Okay, so then I'll paste it here. Okay, so let us see what it will show. Okay, what is saying? when describe cluster operation, the security token has not included. Okay, so I think first already we know that we have to first log in, right? So we already know AWS command will work only when you are logging into this. So we have already tried. So first we have to done what we have to do. First we have to log in into our account, right? So we have to log in into our AWS account. So for that, as you already know, configure. Okay, so we need to enter first log in into our AWS account. So I'll say AWS configure. Okay, so it is asking me this access key ID. So you already know where to get your access key ID, right? So to get this access key ID, just go to this IAM, right? So inside this IAM, so my go to this my quick links, my security credentials, click on this. Okay, I'll just remove this zoom once. Okay, so here I'll scroll down and I'll create one access key. So create access key. Okay, so here this is my access key, this is my secret key. Okay, so I'll copy this access key here, copy, and I will paste it here. Okay, paste, enter, and now it will ask for access secret key. Okay, so secret key this one, copy, and I will paste. Okay, default region I'll take, default output one I'll take. Okay, so now I have logged in into my AWS account. Okay, now I'll be able to execute this command. Okay, so without authentication we might not get the response from the AWS server. Okay, so that is the reason we have logged in. Now I'll say AWS EKS, so I'll execute the command. So now our command prompt will communicate with our cluster. So an error occurred when calling the described cluster operation method message, the request signal we calculated does not match the signature you have provided. Check your AWS secret key and signing method. Okay, it has not logged in properly. Okay, okay, we'll do again. We'll try to uh, try to configure again. So I'll say AWS configure. Okay, so it is asking for the access key ID. I'll try to log in once again. So okay, access management or else dashboard I'll go. So just now we got right. Okay, here it is. So I'll copy access key ID or else download CSV file, that also we can do. So this is my file. So this is my access key ID. So I'll copy this, copy, then I'll paste it in my command prompt, paste. Next, secret key, secret key is here. I'll copy, control C, and now I'll say enter. Okay, so default region I'll leave it empty. Okay, right? So I have again logged in into my account. Now I'll execute my EKS command. Okay, so let us see. Okay, the status is responding as null. I'll do one thing, I'll do small changes. I'll say this as capital S. Now we shall see. Okay, this not responding as our cluster. So I'll just cross check with this. I think before execution of this, there we need to do one more thing. One more thing what we have done is we have already installed this kubectl, right? So once we'll check configure kubectl. So once you install this what we say our kubectl version, so it has responding this, right? So first thing is we'll cross check is once you install this kubectl software, what it will do is it will go to your C drive. So inside your C drive, go to your user section. So inside yours, maybe this is my user ID. So here you might be seeing one folder called .cube. Okay, so .cube is not visible. Okay, maybe that is the reason it is not showing or it's not executing this. Okay, no problem. So once we'll cross check our command. So what it says, where is it going wrong? EKS region, yes, space describe cluster, or else I'll do one thing. I'll just remove this describe cluster and I'll see. Okay, name region I'm provided and the name I have provided and cluster status I'm provided. I'll just try to execute this command. Let us see. It's not copied. Copy, paste. Okay, so let me check this. Okay, error argument is invalid. Okay, no problem. That means our uh, this AWS commands are working. Okay, so what is saying usage options? That means you need to compulsorily use this. Okay, or else we'll do this once again. I'll go to this and I'll say I'll directly search here AWS EKS commands. Okay, so let us check what it will be there. This will also directly give us the commands, right? So I'll go to this place AWS EKS commands. So for which command we are trying AWS EKS command, we are stating for cluster status, right? So cluster status. Okay. So we'll see directly. We'll get a command here. Yes, this is the check command we are doing. So we are doing this describe cluster, right? So we'll go back and see describe cluster. We want to see, right? So click on this describe cluster. Okay, they're giving me so many options, right? Okay. AWS EKS describe cluster name. Okay, so we'll see this only directly. What's there? Control C, and I will say go to this notepad and I'll prepare one. So I'll say this is the template, and what I'll do AWS EKS describe cluster and the name I'll be entering here. So this is my name May 23 Q cluster. I'll copy paste, control C and control V. Okay, so let us check this command now. Control C and we'll try to execute. Okay, right? So let us check. Okay, now what is the person is telling, you must specify a region. You can also configure your region by running AWS configure. Okay, that I know. Okay, so without region they are not telling the status. Okay, so I'll see here also. I think they are doing the same job. Okay, so again is asking region. Okay, we'll provide the region also. So region south 1. Okay, so copy, I'll say this one. Okay, so region also I'm providing. So let me see what the person says. Control C and control V here, copy and paste. Okay, now we shall see. Okay, so here is the response we got from there. So as you can see, we are getting all the cluster details. So this is the cluster, there's the name of the cluster, version, your endpoint, and your cluster details. So what are the subnets we are doing, right? So what are, so endpoints. So these are all details regarding your cluster. In the same manner, what you can do is there are so many commands which are available for you to check your to communicate with your cluster. Okay, so this is just I wanted to show you one small sample of that. So that is the reason I have tried to execute one command. So there will be so many commands, so this all you need to just go through once, because mainly in the interviews they'll be asking some of these commands. So once you create your cluster, add your node groups, just try to execute at least 4 or 5 commands. Try to learn 4 or 5 commands, so that will help you in much better understanding of this. I'll also provide you this link such that you can use it later. Okay, so here are the links available. Link for commands. Okay, so this will help. And one more thing is, you can just try one small command, that is kubectl get svc. So this will give return you all the running services of our nodes. So I'll execute this command. So second command I'm telling. So first we have tried to execute AWS command. It was working. Now I'll try to execute this kubectl command. So we have installed the two softwares, right? So first we have installed this AWS client. We have tried AWS command and try to communicate with our cluster. Now I'll try to communicate with our kubectl commands. Okay. So this is one of the command. Mostly while working on a practical part also, we'll be working regularly on this kubectl commands. Okay. So I'll say, okay, they are providing so many details here. Okay, right. So after this, I'll say kubectl get svc. Okay. Now we shall see. So it is trying to connect, couldn't get server API group. Okay, so that means our it is resisting. So here what you can do is, first before executing this command, what would I suggest is, you can execute one command, this one. So I'll give you that also. So AWS EKS region, you can mention the region here, update update cube config. This is file actually. Every time when you are working on this kubectl, one cube config file need to be added inside your system. Okay, so cube config hyphen name xxx. Okay, so I'll just root this command. So here I'll say region, we already know the region, AP South 1 is our region, and the name of our cluster is May 23 cube cluster. Okay, so we'll do this, copy, and we shall check. Okay, no cluster found for the name May 23 Q cluster. Okay, so what's wrong with the name, we'll check out. Okay, C is capital. I just used the C as the small letter, so that is the reason it has not found. So I'll say again. Okay, now I have given with capital letter. Okay, so here you can see added new context. Now we can able to communicate this kubectl commands. Okay, only after getting this file. So we have found the file. They have created one configuration file here. So in this, all the details regarding your cluster will be located. So I'll go back, see users hurry dot cube file. Okay, so see users hurry, and here you need to find this dot q. Okay, so what is this config file, why we use this, how to create this config file, what are the advantages of this file. So this we learn while doing practical. Okay, so right now just understand that you will be creating one config file. Okay, so this config file is directly created by this AWS for you. Okay, just remember that you'll be having one config file. To get that config file you have to use this command. Okay, so now let us try this kubectl command again. So kubectl get svc, so we shall try now. Okay, so now you can see the response. Okay, so that is name Kubernetes, and our cluster is this one, and with this is our cluster IP address. Okay, so external IP address is not provided, and it is working on port number 443. Okay, so this is just one simple command, so which you can use to check whether your Kubernetes cluster is running or not. Okay, so this is one command for kubectl. Similarly, we'll be working on multiple commands while working on our practical. So just this is just an exposure of one or two commands for you. Okay, so these commands you can see there will be so many list of commands available, which we'll do in the practical part. Okay, similarly, all your Kubernetes commands can be Kubernetes communication will be done using this kubectl commands. So I'll say now, I'll say nodes. Okay, so let us check. So what it will show, or else directly nodes. Okay, so we'll see. I'll execute, I'll ask get my nodes. For that, kubectl get nodes. Okay, so it will get the list of nodes available on my cluster. Okay, so as you can see, it has bought me two clusters. This is this is node number one, and this is node number two. So as you can see the status of this node. Okay, so previously this is cluster, so details of your cluster. Now this is the details of your nodes. Okay, so here you can see this is working on your. Now you have successfully created one cluster, you have successfully created two nodes, and you have successfully tried to communicate with your cluster from outside. Okay, so this is using kubectl commands, you have just try to communicate with your cluster and also your nodes. So now what you can do is, now you need to explore commands of for kubectl and AWS EKS. Okay, so I'll write down. So now explore kubectl commands and AWS apply commands for Kubernetes. Okay, so this is just for your understanding purpose. So what we have tried to do is, we have tried to create one cluster and try to create some nodes, and we have tried to communicate with our cluster, so that we have done. So just to make you guys understand the architecture. Okay, so what exactly the components are there, how we will be creating this node groups. Okay, so just configuration part we have done today. Okay, so from tomorrow we'll be trying to do it practically. So in practically what we will do is, we will work on deployment. So how we will be deploying our containers on Kubernetes, and how you will be uh, communicating with your containers on Kubernetes, how you will be deploying, how you will be managing, how you will be deleting. So all that operations part we will be working from tomorrow. So today we have just done with the Kubernetes architecture, and we have configured, we have created one cluster, and we have added two nodes to our cluster. Okay, so after completing our cluster, we have just tried to communicate with our cluster using AWS CLI and kubectl commands. So that is the reason we have installed our kubectl and AWS like comments. Okay, so that we have done, just only this is the only configuration part, it has to cover whole class. So similarly from tomorrow also, this configuration part first it will be little difficult, but now we have configured everything, we have the softwares installed, and we are ready to start with executing the commands. So already our cluster is there, so we can use the existing cluster, and also we have two nodes, so we can run and deploy our containers on this nodes. So where is our I can directly go to this EKS, I'll say EKS. So Kubernetes service I have created. So you can see my cluster is available. So inside my cluster I have two nodes working for me. Okay, so tomorrow what we shall try to do is, so as you can see, this is my node, this is my node, as as you can see it is available. Okay, so tomorrow what we shall do is we shall deploy our containers onto this pods. Okay, inside the pod we will be try to deploy our nodes, sorry, containers. Okay, for that already we have completed the software installation, we have installed the kubectl and AWS client. So that should be sufficient to install our container on our Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so we'll do that practical tomorrow. Okay, and immediate, and one more thing is, please after completing your practice, please try to delete your cluster. Okay, so because it is chargeable, so they will be charging you. Okay, so after my class I'll be creating deleting my cluster. So delete your cluster, actually the process is simple, just click on select your cluster and click on delete. Okay, so may 23 cube cluster. Okay, click on delete. So what, and one more important thing is, before, if you want to delete your cluster, first you need to remove your nodes. Okay, so unless you don't remove your nodes, it won't get deleted. So click on this compute, again select your node group and click on delete. Okay, node grp may 23. Okay, so if your cluster will get deleted only after deleting all your nodes. Okay, so first delete your node group. Okay, so then you can delete your cluster. So let this node group get deleted first. Okay, it is deleting. Okay, still getting deleted. Okay, one node got deleted. Okay, so now you can see our nodes are got have got deleted. There are no nodes inside. Okay, so immediately once the node group also gets deleted, we can able to delete our master node. Okay, so that is nothing but cluster. Okay, so let it delete, complete this first. Okay, so here you can see zero node groups and zero nodes. Okay, so now you can able to delete your cluster. So I'll say click on delete cluster and I'll provide the name may 23 q cluster. Okay, so click on delete. So this will be able to delete your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so this is the process, right? So please do this practical. Okay, so the practical configuration of the cluster and the nodes. Okay, and also please try to explore few more commands that are kubectl commands and also AWS EKS commands. Okay, so you need to keep this all ready, then further we can move on and we can deploy our containers on our Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so that is it for today's class. Okay, and please complete this practical by today itself. Okay, or else if you are doing something tomorrow, you might not be able to get it. Okay, so this is a little big practical only. It needs lot of practice. Okay, practice the same thing multiple times. Okay, such that you can get familiar, right? So that is it for today's class, and we'll meet in tomorrow's class.
Sir,
Yeah, చెప్పమ్మా.
like ఈ AWSలో ఫ్రీ టైర్ యూసేజ్ లిమిట్ 100% అని చూపిస్తుంది సార్ ఏమైనా
అమ్మా, అర్థం కాలేదు.
ఏడబ్ల్యూఎస్ ఏడబ్ల్యూఎస్ అకౌంట్లో ఫ్రీ టైర్ అని ఉంటుంది కదా సార్
అవును,
బిల్లింగ్లో బిల్స్లో
అవును, అవును.
100% అని చూపిస్తుంది
ఫ్రీ టైర్ కంప్లీట్గా యూజ్ అయిపోయిందా?
యూసేజ్
ఓకే, ఏం కదమ్మా, కంటిన్యూ ఒక పని చేయలేకపోతే ఈ అకౌంట్ డిలీట్ చేసి మళ్ళీ ఫ్రెష్గా క్రియేట్ చేసుకోలేకపోతే సరిపోతుంది. ఈ
ఓకే
అకౌంట్ ఎలా డిలీట్ చేస్తారో
సార్
ఐడియా ఉందా?
అదే తెలియదు సార్
ఓకే, సింపుల్ అమ్మా. అది ఒక పని చేయి. ఇప్పుడు నార్మల్గా లాగిన్ అవుతావు కదా, లాగిన్ అయిన తర్వాత ఒకసారి బిల్లింగ్లోకి వెళ్ళు. ఇక్కడ స్క్రీన్ కనిపిస్తుంది కదా నీకు?
ఎస్ సార్
ఓకే, బిల్లింగ్ డాష్ బోర్డ్లోకి వెళ్ళి ఇక్కడ నేమ్ క్లిక్ చేస్తే ఇక్కడ బాటంలో నీకు బిల్లింగ్ డాష్ బోర్డ్ అని ఉంటుంది. ఓకే,
సార్ ఫ్రీ టైర్ 100% యూసేజ్ అని
అవునవును, అర్థమైంది, నాకు అర్థమైంది. సో ఇక్కడ ఇక్కడ ఉంటుంది బిల్లింగ్ ప్రిఫరెన్సెస్లోన ఇక్కడ.
అకౌంట్ డీయాక్టివేట్ చేయొచ్చు సార్.
డీయాక్టివేట్ అవ్వదు, క్లోజ్ చేసేయచ్చు అకౌంట్ మనం.
అదే.
ఇక్కడే ఇక్కడ ఉండాలి, నాకు కనిపించట్లేదు. ఒక పని చేస్తానులే, నేను చూసి నీకు చెప్తాను ఒకసారి. ఓకే, నేను ఆల్రెడీ డిలీట్ చేశాను అలా
ఓకే
అకౌంట్స్.
సార్.
తీసేసుకొని మళ్ళీ ఫ్రెష్గా అకౌంట్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకో. నార్మల్గా ఇప్పుడు నీకు బిల్లింగ్లో ప్రైజెస్ ఏమైనా చూపిస్తున్నాడా, ఎంత ప్రైజింగ్ అయింది అని?
బిల్స్లో కొడితేనేమో 0.
పర్వాలేదు, ఏం కాదు, కంటిన్యూ అలాగే కంటిన్యూ యూజ్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు, ఏం ప్రాబ్లం లేదు.
బిల్స్లోనేమో
మనకి
జీరో
హ్యూజ్
పాయింట్
బిల్
వన్
వస్తే
ఫోర్ అని
ప్రాబ్లం.
పడుతుంది సార్.
అమ్మా,
అది సార్ ఫ్రీ టైర్ ఏమో 100% యూజ్ చేశాను పడుతుంది.
అదే అర్థమైంది నాకు.
అదే ఏమన్నా అవుతుందా మళ్ళీ ఏమన్నా?
లేదు, ఏం ప్రాబ్లం లేదులే, ఏం ప్రాబ్లం లేదు. నేను ఒకసారి అది ఎక్స్ప్లోర్ చేసి రేపు చెప్తానులే, అది ఎక్కడో దొరకట్లేదు. ఇక్కడే ఇక్కడే ఉంటుంది, మర్చిపోయాను నేను. ఒకసారి నేను చూసి నేను చెప్తానులే, రేపు మార్నింగ్ ఈ అకౌంట్ ఎలా తీసేయాలో నేను చెప్తాను. ఓకే, మళ్ళీ ఫ్రెష్గా క్రియేట్ చేసుకొని
సరే సార్.
యూస్ చేసుకో ఇంకా ఫ్రీ టైర్ అకౌంట్. రైట్.
ఓకే సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
ఇక్కడే వెంకట్ ఉన్నావా, వెళ్ళిపోయావా? వెంకట్ ఉన్నావా?
ఉన్నాను సార్.
ఓకే ఓకే, ఇక్కడే ఉంటుంది చూడు, డైరెక్ట్గా అది ఆప్షన్ నీకు. మన ఈ అకౌంట్ ఉంది కదా, నేమ్ కింద డైరెక్ట్గా అకౌంట్ అనే ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుంది. సో అకౌంట్ ఓపెన్ చేస్తే,
ఎస్ సార్.
సో లాస్ట్కి ఎండ్ వరకు వెళ్ళు ఇక్కడ. సో లాస్ట్ ఎండ్ వరకు వెళ్తే నీకు ఇక్కడ డైరెక్ట్గా క్లోజ్ అకౌంట్ అని ఉంటుంది. సో ఇది క్లిక్ చేస్తే నువ్వు క్లోజ్ అయిపోతుంది అకౌంట్. ఓకేనా?
ఓకే సార్.
ఇది చేయకముందుకు ఏం చేయంటే, ఫస్ట్ నువ్వు ఇది కాకుండా ప్యారలల్గా ఇంకో ఈమెయిల్ ఐడితో ఇంకోటి క్రియేట్ చేసుకో ఫస్ట్. ఇంకో ఫ్రీ అకౌంట్ క్రియేట్
అంటే
చేసుకో,
ఇది
ఇది క్లోజ్ చేయకముందు. ఇంకొక ఫ్రీ అకౌంట్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకో, అది రన్నింగ్లో ఉంది అంటే అది అప్పుడు ఇది క్లోజ్ చేయి. ఓకేనా?
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే సార్.
ఎందుకంటే మళ్ళీ ఇది క్లోజ్ చేసిన తర్వాత మళ్ళీ ఇంకో అకౌంట్ క్రియేట్ అవ్వలేదు అనుకో, మళ్ళీ ఇది పోతుంది, మళ్ళీ ఫ్రెష్గా కూడా అకౌంట్ రాదు. సో అందుకే ముందే ఏం చేయంటే ఇంకో అకౌంట్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకో, ఫ్రీ అకౌంట్. సో అది రన్నింగ్లో వచ్చిన తర్వాత అప్పుడు దీన్ని క్లోజ్ చేయి. ఓకే.
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
రైట్.